steak and potatoes, probably one of my favourite dishes of all time. And I'm going to jazz it up a little bit by making a gorgeous Chipotle butter to go with it. This compound butter is a fantastic substitute for all the classic sauces that you would usually have with your steak, such as pepper sauce or red wine sauce. Now, first up, let's get our potatoes on. I've been heating up some oil in the oven, some vegetable oil, for about 5 minutes. And this is the key thing to getting crispy potatoes. So I'll carefully take that out of the oven. And that's about 2 tablespoons. And now we'll add our potatoes. Now, these spuds, I'm going to leave the skin on and just cut them into wedges. You can cut them any shape you like. I think they look fantastic like this. And then you want to add your potatoes straight away, but being very careful not to splatter the oil. See how it's just sizzling a little? That's going to seal off the potatoes on all sides, which is going to give us that golden, crunchy finish and a really fluffy inside. So I'll quickly cut a few more of them and then add them to this really hot oil. Now I'll season that with some salt, and I'm not adding anything else. That's it. That goes into the oven. With wedges like this, they're going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. Just give them a shake halfway through, just to make sure we've got a nice even colour. Now, I bought 150 grams of butter to room temperature. I'll add that to the food processor. You can just mix this by hand, but what I like about this is it chops everything up and really mixes the chipotle with the butter. This is chipotle in adobo sauce. So these are the little chilies, and you can see this rich tomato sauce that goes with it. It's so smoky. It's fantastic in all types of Mexican food, and for this too. If you just do this by hand, finely chop it. It does have a kick to it. It's spicy. So if you don't like too much spice, just use the sauce and leave out the whole chili. I'm gonna go for a lot of spice today. And also some lime, the zest of 1 lime, and then the juice. Fabulous. Now I'll just cut that in half. I can feel that this is a super juicy lime. And I want a lot of the freshness from the lime, so I'm going to add the whole lot. Perfect. Lid goes on, and I'll whip this until it's all nicely mixed together. All right, that is looking perfectly whipped. I'll taste it now just to check the seasoning. Oh, that has got a really good kick to it, but it does need a little salt, so a pinch of salt. And then another quick whip. Perfect. Now this is fantastic, just dolloped over the steak. When it's really hot though, it's nice when the butter slowly melts. So that's why I'm going to place it in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes. So some baking paper, and then we'll just scoop out all this yummy butter onto this baking paper. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to form a cylinder, and this is the very classic way of presenting and storing a compound butter like this. So I'll spread it out just into a rough rectangle, and then we'll form it into a log or a cylinder. And then just fold it over and just with your hands form the cylinder. Okay, once you've got the perfect cylinder, we'll just cut off the excess. And then we'll wrap it in a bomb-bomb. Perfect. So I'll pop that in the fridge to chill a little bit. We'll wait for those potatoes to finish cooking, and then we'll get onto the main attraction here, good old steak. Okay, the potatoes are almost cooked. This butter is firmed up nicely, so I've just removed it from the fridge, and let's get on to cooking the steak. Now, I'm using a gorgeous certified organic Porterhouse steak. The Porterhouse steak is actually attached to the T-bone steak, and I love it because it's got a beautiful amount of lean meat and then a nice thick cut of fat, which means it's going to stay moist throughout the cooking process. Now, this Porterhouse is 200 grams, so I have brought it out 1 hour before. Ideally, you want to say bring it to room temperature, and the reason we do this is so it's going to be perfectly pink from the top all the way to the bottom. Next thing is having a nice hot grill. We also need to drizzle some oil onto our steak, and we'll just brush that over it on all sides, And please leave the fat on. It's not only going to hold the shape of the steak, but it's also going to give it flavour. If you don't want the fat, you can take it off later. Now some salt, a good pinch of salt on both sides. That's going to help form a lovely crust, and I love some pepper, so crack of pepper. Now, a steak of this size will take about 2 minutes on each side, but really it depends on how you like your steak. I like mine medium rare, and they say generally the internal temperature of a steak for medium rare should be between 50 and 55 degrees. Now, this lovely steak has come out of the pan, and this is another critical point when you're cooking your steak. Let it rest. It's a muscle, so just let it relax for at least half the time you cooked it. So we cooked this for 4 minutes, let it rest for 2 minutes. Before I start slicing into it, we'll just get our plate all organised. The potatoes are so crispy. They've come out of the oven, so I'll add a generous amount of those onto my plate. And now for the steak, I'm going to cut it against the grain. I'm serving it with the fat, and look at that steak. See how it's pinked from all the way to the top to the bottom? That's exactly how I love it, medium rare. So I'll keep slicing it. You can put it straight on the plate. I think it just looks fantastic as you slice it, just to show off the cuisson of the steak. And that word is the French word just to show off the doneness of the steak. And then on the plate, separating a bit. Now we've got to work quickly because we want that butter to melt over the top. So I'll cut off the end, and then we'll get that perfect circle. Of course, taking off that paper, and then we'll pop that just on the top. And I like to just add a small little herb salad with French shallots through it, just for some slight greenery, and I love the flavour of the fennel fronds. That is the perfect cooked steak. Steak and potatoes taken to the next level. And I tell you what, that butter is delicious because when it starts to melt, you get that beautiful chipotle flavour and the lemon zest come through. Fantastic match for the perfect porterhouse steak.